Betrayed by blood, a sister's betrayal of her daughter's dreams. It all started 2 years ago in a small, dimly lit kitchen where I sat across from my sister, Lucy, trying to process the weight of her words. Her voice trembled as she told me about the messy divorce with Noah, the relentless fights, the custody battles, and the financial strain. It was clear to me that the only thing left untouched in their fractured world was their daughter, Emily. Emily, my bright, beautiful niece, had always been a star. Straight-A student, president of the science club, with dreams of becoming a doctor since she was little. When she was a child, I would watch her pretend to be a surgeon, carefully stitching up teddy bears in her make-believe clinic, and I knew she was destined for greatness. But now, at 17, she was caught in the crossfire of her parents' mess. I'll never forget the phone call I received one late evening. Emily was crying. I could hear the pain in her voice as she told me how she overheard her parents arguing about her college fund. They couldn't afford it anymore. That shattered me. How could this happen? How could the future of such a dedicated young woman be derailed by her parents' inability to provide? I couldn't sit back and watch this happen. My wife, Vivian, and I had no children of our own. We were comfortable, but more than that, we were grateful for the life we had. We knew that this was the time to step in to give Emily the chance she deserved. And so, after a long talk, we made the decision. I promised her mother, Lucy, that we would set up a dedicated college fund for Emily. Every month, I would contribute $2,000 earmarked strictly for her education. I can still hear Lucy's voice breaking as she hugged me tightly. "You're saving our future," she said between sobs. At that moment, I believed I was doing the right thing. I felt certain that I was doing everything I could to ensure Emily's dreams would come true. What I didn't know then, what I could never have predicted, was that my promise would soon unravel and the one person I trusted most would become the very one who threatened to steal Emily's future away. The months went by, and for the first year and a half, everything seemed to be on track. Emily kept sending me updates on her college journey, researching her dream schools, applying for scholarships, and excitedly sharing about the medical programs she hoped to join. She was focused, determined, and pushing forward despite everything her family was going through. I couldn't have been prouder. But then something started to feel off. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. I'd get a text from Lucy now and then, updating me on Emily's progress. But soon after, the messages became less frequent, and what caught my attention were the photos Lucy began posting on her social media. There she was, lounging by a sparkling pool in an expensive resort, smiling in front of a lavish beachfront villa. Then came the photos with her new car, a sleek, shiny thing that looked way out of her price range. The captions were always the same, embracing my new life. So grateful for the opportunity to travel and recharge. At first, I told myself maybe she's just trying to find herself after the divorce. She's been through a lot. But as the weeks went by, the posts kept coming: new cars, weekend getaways, dinner at fancy restaurants. Meanwhile, I hadn't heard anything from her about Emily's college applications or the financial side of things. Something didn't sit right. I tried to brush it off, but the nagging feeling in my gut only grew stronger. I kept telling myself that I was probably overthinking it. After all, Emily was still moving forward with her plans, right? But then it hit me: Lucy's sudden new life was starting to look more like a vacation than a new beginning. And Emily? She hadn't mentioned anything about the funding lately. It wasn't until I got a call from Emily one evening that the full weight of what was happening started to sink in. She sounded worried. "Uncle Thomas, I haven't heard anything about the tuition payment for my top choice school," she said. "I was supposed to get the acceptance package soon, but they're asking for the first semester's payment before they can finalize everything." I thought it was already set. I felt the blood drain from my face. Wasn't that what we'd agreed upon? Didn't I put enough aside? I tried to stay calm, but panic started to creep in. Something wasn't adding up. So I did what anyone would do: I checked the account. What I saw left me frozen in place. The balance was nowhere near what it should have been. Instead of the roughly $48,000 I had deposited over the past year, there was barely $1,000 left. My heart sank. I dove into the transaction history and my stomach turned. Dozens of withdrawals, all made at various bank branches. I started to dig deeper: medical expenses? Textbook fees? These weren't adding up either. They seemed off. And then it hit me: several large withdrawals lined up perfectly with the dates of Lucy's vacations. The Bahamas. A luxury spa retreat. The timeline was undeniable. Before I share what happened next, the moment that left me completely speechless, I want to connect with you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. I was left staring at the screen in disbelief. My sister had taken the money meant for Emily's future. Every withdrawal felt like a betrayal. The excitement I'd once felt when setting up this account, the promise I'd made to my niece, it was all slipping through my fingers. I couldn't sit still. My mind raced as I clicked through the transaction history again, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I rubbed my eyes, hoping it was some kind of mistake, some technical glitch in the system. But no, there it was, staring back at me clear as day. The funds that were supposed to secure Emily's future were gone. Nearly every penny. I clicked through the pages of the account, each withdrawal sending a shockwave through my chest. Thousands, tens of thousands, taken in small, regular chunks, just enough to avoid raising suspicion, but enough to destroy everything we'd planned. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was undeniable. The money had gone to Lucy. I scrolled back through the dates and gasped. The first large withdrawal had been just a week before she posted pictures of herself in a tropical resort, the Bahamas, to be exact. It all started to piece together in my mind, the lavish vacations, the new car that she'd proudly flaunted on social media. It wasn't just a coincidence. She had been living it up while her daughter's future was slipping away. And now Emily had no idea. I felt an overwhelming sense of devastation wash over me. My stomach turned and I fought to hold back tears. How could Lucy, my own sister, betray me like this? How could she steal from her own daughter? It wasn't just the money. It was the dreams. The hope. Everything I had promised Emily. It was all being torn apart. I couldn't just sit on this any longer. I had to confront her. The words I would say, the questions I would ask, repeated over and over in my head, but nothing seemed to make sense. How do you confront someone you trust so deeply, someone you believed in with all your heart, knowing they've done this? The more I thought about it, the more the anger began to take over. How dare she? How dare Lucy live a life of luxury while Emily, who had worked so hard, was left to fend for herself? I could feel the frustration bubbling inside me. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could do was stare at the screen and think about how much worse this was going to get for Emily. I needed to act fast. Emily was waiting for an answer about her tuition and I couldn't let her down. I had to make sure she still had a shot at her dream, even if it meant exposing my sister's betrayal in the process. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what was to come. I could already feel the confrontation building, like a storm gathering on the horizon. I knew what I had to do. I gathered all the evidence I could find, screenshots of the bank statements, photos of Lucy's vacations, and records of her extravagant purchases. Each piece of information felt like a punch to the gut, but I had to hold it together. Emily needed me. I wasn't going to let my sister's greed steal her future. With a heavy heart, I dialed Lucy's number. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't back down now. She needed to face the consequences of her actions, no matter how painful it was going to be. The call rang out, and when Lucy finally picked up, I took a deep breath. "Lucy, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone light as if nothing had changed. "I know what you've been doing," I replied, my voice trembling with anger. "I've seen the bank statements. I know about the money." There was a long pause on the other end. Then her voice faltered. "What money?" I held up the phone, staring at the documents on my screen. "The money you've been stealing from Emily's education fund. The money you promised was for her future. What did you spend it on, Lucy? Vacations? A new car?" The silence that followed was deafening. Before I share what happened next, when everything came crashing down in a way I never expected, I want to connect with you, my incredible viewers. Have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted? Drop a comment below and let me know how you handled it. And if you want to see how this confrontation unfolds, hit that like button because this is just the beginning. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lucy broke the silence. "You don't understand, Thomas," she said, her voice strained. "I've been under so much pressure. The divorce, everything falling apart. I needed something for me. I needed to live again." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The tears I was holding back were on the verge of spilling over. I had been so blind, so trusting. My own sister had stolen from her daughter, and now she was trying to justify it with excuses. I could feel the weight of the betrayal crushing me. But more than that, I could see the damage it had done to Emily. I wasn't going to let this go. I took another deep breath, my voice firm. "You don't get to do this. You've robbed your daughter's future. And now it's time for you to face the consequences." The anger surged through me, and for the first time, I realized that this was no longer about protecting Emily's education. It was about righting the wrongs that Lucy had done, no matter how painful it was. It was about ensuring that Emily had a shot at her dream, even if it meant losing my sister in the process. I hung up the phone, my heart racing. The next steps were clear. I had to confront Lucy. I had to make sure Emily's future wasn't ruined, no matter what it took. The battle ahead would be long and painful, but I wasn't backing down now. The truth was out. The consequences were coming. And nothing would be the same again. The coffee shop was bustling with the usual hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, and the smell of freshly ground coffee filling the air. I arrived early, the tension in my chest rising with each passing second. My fingers gripped the stack of bank statements and screenshots of Lucy's social media posts. This was it, the moment I had dreaded but knew was inevitable. Lucy walked in, her smile as wide and fake as ever. She didn't see it coming. She didn't know I had already seen everything. I watched her order her usual and overpriced caramel macchiato and sit down across from me, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. "So, what's all this about?" she asked, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. Her tone was light, almost playful, like nothing had changed. I was kind of hoping we could talk about Emily's college plans. I laid the papers out in front of her, my hands steady but my mind racing. "Lucy, I'm not here to talk about college plans. I'm here because I've seen the bank statements. I know what you've been doing." Her face flickered for just a moment, shock, confusion, then a mask of indifference. "What are you talking about?" I didn't flinch. "You've been stealing from Emily's college fund. Over the past year, I've deposited $2,000 a month for her education. But instead of going to her future, it's gone to vacations, new cars, and your new life. You've been living it up while your daughter's future is slipping away." Her eyes darted to the papers in front of her, and I saw the color drain from her face. For a second, it felt like the whole world paused. Then, with a sharp laugh, she pushed the papers away. "That's private," she said, her voice trembling with irritation. "You have no right to look at my finances. You lost that right when you started using money meant for your daughter's future to fund your vacations." I shot back. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't let her manipulate me. Not this time. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw the anger flash in them. "You don't understand, Thomas," she snapped. "I've been through hell. The divorce, the endless battles with Noah. I needed something for myself. I needed to feel alive again." Her voice was tight with emotion, as if she was searching for sympathy I wasn't willing to give. I leaned in, my voice low but firm. "And you thought taking money meant for your daughter's education was how you were going to feel alive again? That's selfish, Lucy. That's manipulative." Her face twisted with frustration, and she slammed her hand down on the table. "You don't get it. You have no idea what it's like always being the one holding everything together. I needed a break. I needed something that was just for me. Do you know how hard it's been? Do you think it's easy, fighting for my kids, fighting to keep our lives together?" I could feel my own anger boiling, but I forced myself to stay calm. "What about Emily, Lucy? Did you ever stop to think about her? She's the one who's been working her ass off to get into college. She's the one with the dreams, the potential. And you took that away from her." Lucy's face crumbled. For a moment, I thought she might break down. But then she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and defiance. "She's fine," she said, her voice shaking. "She's strong. She'll figure it out. I'm not the one who needs help here." "You're wrong," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You've stolen from your daughter, and you've taken away the chance for her to build the future she deserves. All for your own selfish needs." Her gaze dropped to the table, her fingers trembling around her coffee cup. For a moment, she looked like a broken woman, but the deflection came quickly. "I didn't steal anything. I've been providing for her in my own way. I've been trying to get back on my feet after everything fell apart." Her voice softened, the guilt bleeding through. "I needed to take care of myself before I could take care of anyone else." I shook my head, the weight of her words sinking in. She wasn't taking responsibility. She was justifying her actions, using guilt to excuse the betrayal. It was all coming undone, and I couldn't stop it. My heart ached for Emily, and for a moment I wondered how I had let this happen. "You have no right to use Emily's future as your escape, Lucy," I said, standing up. "I'm done trying to fix this for you. I'm going to tell her everything." Her face contorted with panic. "You can't. You can't do that," she cried, reaching out to grab my arm. "She'll hate me. I'm her mother." I shook her off. "She deserves the truth, and she deserves better than this." The desperation in her eyes was haunting, but I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. She had made her choice. Now it was time to face the consequences. "You don't get to destroy your daughter's future and walk away, Lucy. I'm going to tell Emily everything." As I turned to leave, I heard her voice crack. "Please, Thomas, don't tell her. She's all I have left." But I couldn't stop now. I had to protect Emily. I had to give her the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The fallout had begun, and there was no turning back. The days that followed the confrontation felt like an emotional roller coaster, but one thing was clear: I couldn't back down now. I had to ensure Emily's future was secure, even if it meant exposing my sister's betrayal to the world. The truth needed to come out no matter how difficult it would be. I sat down with Vivian, my wife, and we talked about what needed to happen next. Emily moved in with us, and while she never said it out loud, I could see the weight lifting from her shoulders as she found a sense of safety and support in our home. It wasn't just a roof over her head, it was a promise that we would fight for her, that she wasn't alone in this. Lucy's world was crumbling. Word got out and the ripple effect was immediate. Family members, some of whom had quietly defended Lucy, came forward with their own stories. It turned out Lucy hadn't just stolen from Emily, she had been using the same tactics with other relatives for years. A cousin revealed that Lucy had borrowed thousands for Emily's medical insurance, money she never repaid. An aunt admitted to lending her $15,000 for school expenses that never existed. The web of lies and manipulation was bigger than I had ever imagined. Each new revelation felt like another punch to the gut. But at the same time, it was liberating. The truth was coming to light, and it was painful but necessary. The more stories surfaced, the clearer it became that Lucy had built a foundation of lies, one that had been held up by the trust and generosity of our family. That trust was now shattered. As the legal consequences for Lucy began to escalate, the weight of what she had done started to sink in. Her actions weren't just about money, they had real, lasting consequences on her daughter's future, and now the law was going to hold her accountable. I spoke with an attorney and started the process of making sure Emily's education fund was secure, legally protected this time. We also took steps to ensure that Lucy would no longer have access to the money she had stolen. Emily, though shaken, never wavered in her commitment to her dream. Watching her continue to push forward with her college applications, determined to become a doctor, was a reminder of why this fight was so important. She had the resilience of someone who had been through far more than anyone her age should. She didn't allow the betrayal to define her. If anything, it seemed to fuel her determination. Each day, she worked harder, with more purpose than before. Her unwavering spirit was both heartbreaking and inspiring. It was during this time that I realized the full weight of what Emily had lost and what she was still fighting for. The sense of justice that began to unfold was bittersweet because no amount of legal victories could undo the damage Lucy had caused. But still, the truth was out. The family was healing and Emily's future was finally back on track. The road ahead was still uncertain, but at least it was a road she could walk with her head held high. As the legal battles continued, I watched Lucy spiral. Her once lavish lifestyle had crumbled, and now she was left facing the consequences of her choices. I felt no satisfaction in watching her fall from grace. There was too much pain, too much destruction for any part of me to feel victorious. But there was a quiet sense of relief in knowing that Emily would be okay, that she would be able to chase her dreams of becoming a doctor without the weight of her mother's betrayal hanging over her. The emotional aftermath of all of this was overwhelming. There were days when I wondered if I'd done enough or if I should have acted sooner. But then I'd look at Emily sitting at the dining room table, working on her applications with a focus and determination that spoke volumes about who she was. That was all the proof I needed. We had done the right thing. Justice had been served, but it came at a price. The family was never going to be the same, and the wounds would take time to heal. But in the end, Emily's resilience shone through, and that was the most important thing. She was still moving forward, still dreaming, still fighting for her future. And no matter what, she would never have to face that future alone. The storm had passed, but the healing was just beginning.